Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I welcome back one of the most fascinating guests I've interviewed in a long time. Crista, thank you for coming back and sharing your amazing story with us today. We had so much to talk about the last time I interviewed you. We decided to do a part 2 of your interview. So welcome back. Please reintroduce yourself, tell everybody where you are, where you're based, and let's delve into more of your story today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Crista Cloutier, and I am based in a tiny little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in the south of France. And I'm thrilled to be back here again with you.
Crista, it's so great to reconnect with you today. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to delve into more questions about the world of art, what you've done with your life, and how you're helping artists through your programs, your coaching, and your mentoring. Now, you focus on introducing underrepresented artists to the market. What advice would you give to artists striving to break the barriers?
I suggest that artists learn as much as they can about the business of art, about marketing techniques in and out of art, but also about themselves. There's a famous quote by Harold Rosenberg, the art historian. He said, "The job of an artist is to make an artist." And I believe that's true. And I believe that the best art comes from that. Art is about ideas. It comes from the best part of ourselves. And I think it's a journey without end. So in order to make the best art you can, you've really got to learn about yourself. In order to sell it to the world, you've got to learn about marketing and business and really treat it as a business.
Now, most artists aren't trained to think in a business-like way. I think that is the biggest challenge for most artists. They aren't taught how to market, how to promote themselves. Now, your journey includes several reinventions, such as moving to France and starting again. How do you stay resilient during times of uncertainty? Because that really is the life of an artist as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know when I was an art dealer, my mentor told me one time there was a recession and I was terrified. Like, how are we going to survive? How am I going to sell art during a recession? And he said, times of recession are times when you reinvent yourself. Times of recession are times when you start doing things differently. So it's really a time of opportunity. And I found that super helpful. So if the economy's tanking, we all know that arts are the first to take a hit, right? So if things are starting to move along, great. And then the economy tanks. What I see artists do too often is continue to do things the same way and get really upset that they're not working out anymore. But yet they continue to do things the same way because it worked out last year. It's not working now, but I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to keep doing things the same way. And isn't that like the definition of insanity? Eventually it drives us insane. Like it used to work. And so we hang on, it's like staying with that, with that person because we used to be happy and, you know, things change, people change, economies change, markets change. So we have to be adaptable and we have to keep learning. I think being an artist is about always being curious and always learning about your craft, learning about yourself, your voice, finding your voice, but also learning about your business and your market and your customers.
Now, you have helped artists from over 80 countries. What trends or commodities do you see in the global art community?
Trends in terms of like where art is going, I can't really speak to that because I think there's so many different art markets. That's the beauty of the internet. I see that the old guard is falling away. Galleries are closing left and right, especially, once they were already, a lot of them are closing their doors, but now that's happening more and more. And we lost a lot of galleries in COVID, and they haven't come back. Um, that is good news, and it's bad news and good news. It's bad news for people who want things to be the way they used to be because they're not going to be again. And there's still galleries that exist and there's still those opportunities, but galleries aren't working the same way that they used to. They don't handhold for artists anymore. They don't build an artist's career for them anymore. Right. You have to bring your audience to them. You have to be doing that work. That's the kind of artist galleries are looking for now, not someone that they can groom and nurture. But what's really great about this new economy is that art is more accessible to people. I remember when I had a gallery, people would open the door this much and say, "Does it cost anything to come in and look?" They were so afraid. Yeah. And I remember, I mean, I go to galleries all the time, but, back in the day when I would go to like New York City and I'd walk into a gallery and I was there to buy something and I couldn't get anyone to look at me or speak to me. They were just so snobby. Do you know what I mean? It was part of the culture. Bad customer service was somehow part of a culture. I don't understand how that became a business model for art, but that's one reason I'm not too sad about the changes in the art world. Yes. But what that's done is it's really opened it up because people can go online. Someone who's never bought art before can go online, can see a beautiful picture, and they can buy it. And they don't have to worry about not feeling smart enough or not knowing the right things to say or, in art galleries, sometimes they don't even put the prices on the wall. Yeah, that's so And you have to have an awful lot of confidence to ask someone, if you can get that person to even answer you. So that culture is disappearing very, very quickly. I mean, it still exists in some places, but not nearly as much. Yeah. I think that's a good thing.
So how do you see the working artist evolving in the future, especially with the rise of digital platforms and NFTs?
Well, I'm constantly updating it, and we have a section on NFTs, for example. But I'm actually thinking of taking that section down because I don't want to promote NFTs anymore. Not right now. NFTs like hit hard and fast, and we did kind of a masterclass within the working artist with an artist who was making NFTs and selling NFTs and doing really well in that space. Right. But I have seen so many artists get ripped off now. So many artists, and that market has really fallen. And I get emails all the time asking me, "Hey, I was approached by this person and they want to do NFTs of my work." And I can't advise anyone do that with someone they don't know in that arena right now until there's more security there.
Wow. Okay. So that's a good warning. That's a good warning. So how do you recommend artists price their work for online audiences while maintaining their value?
That's a good question because Artists often price their work with their ego. And by
Okay.
and large, this might be funny to some of your viewers. By and large, I find that men overprice and women underprice. So what does
Okay.
that tell you? But it's
Yeah.
not, that's not how art should be priced. Art is a commodity that responds to market value, like
Okay.
other things that are being sold in the marketplace, because we have to keep remembering this is a business. So it's
Yes.
not about, how much you love the piece. It's not about, it's that you went to art school. It's not about that. It's about your market. I'm certified as a fine art appraiser, and I priced all the work that came out of the art studio when I was the director of the art studio. So I know a
Right.
lot about pricing, and
Okay.
I see a lot of information online that's frankly quite wrong. Really, if you're going to sell your art, you need to do your due diligence and do your research. Where are you going to sell your work? And then compare yourself to other artists who are doing the same kind of work and selling it in the same place. And then you adjust from there according
Right.
to how much, if they've had a museum show, your work would be priced less than them. If they're represented by a big gallery, your work would be priced less than them. But, once you get that gallery, you can start raising your prices. I
Yeah.
always advise that artists do start low, because you don't want to price too high and then have to lower your price. And the reason you don't want to do that is because even though people buy art for emotional reasons, there's
Yeah.
always the investment in the back of their head. No one wants to see their investment go down. So that's part of your job as the artist, is to maintain the integrity of your market and the value of your work. So you really don't want to bring your prices down if you can help it. You want to
Yeah.
keep growing them as the market bears. Now, when you're working online, that's a lot more complicated, but
Yes.
you can see where are the places that you're going to be selling, who are the people that like your work, what there's a lot of factors. It's a complicated question. But if you're selling your work in person, I think you need to kind of start there with your prices, because you
Wow.
don't want to have two different prices. You don't want to have an online price and an in-person price, because the internet might be big, but the world is small. And
Yes.
if someone
Sure.
buys something for a higher price and they see it somewhere else for a lower price, that's not good.
Yeah. So, how important is social media presence for artists, and what strategies can they use to grow an engaged audience?
It's not de rigueur, you don't have to, I work with a lot of artists who say, I hate social media, I don't want to do it. Okay, you don't have to. You
Mhm.
can sell your work in person. You can. Now, the people who
Okay.
tell me, but I don't want to sell in person. Well, okay, then we got a little bit of a problem, Then you can find a gallery. But again, a gallery doesn't necessarily want to work with someone who doesn't already have an audience. So social
Yeah.
media is where we build our audience. Social media is where we teach people how to see our work, how to look at our work. We teach people about our work. It's not a place where we go to sell our work. It's where we go to teach about our work, and then try to make that sale.
Right. Yeah. So it's a more an education opportunity for people
Yeah.
to understand what is behind the piece of work that they're buying, correct?
Yeah, about you, about your studio life, your practice, whatever. It really depends. Every artist is different what their social media strategy will be. You
Yeah.
know, um, I'll give an example of a digital artist I worked with. When he came to me, he was doing digital art and he was trying to sell it online, and his subject matter, he had three different subjects. He was doing
Right.
seascapes, film stills, and I forget the fourth, like landscapes. And so he
Right.
was trying to create social media content about all three, and it was just kind of making a mess of it. Like it didn't make any sense, and no one could really tell what he was doing. And I said, well, it seems to me when we talk about your work, your passion, your golden thread. That's what I call the thing that ties your work together. That's so important to
Yes.
every artist to find that. His golden thread was digital art. I said, so
Okay.
why don't you post about digital art and about being a digital artist? And then
Right.
you can make the work that you want to make. And that was a big light bulb moment for him. And within 6 weeks, he had a show in a digital art museum. And he was invited to join a very prestigious digital art organization. So
Okay.
that made all the difference. The
Wow.
more you can focus on that golden thread, the
Yes.
better.
That's really where the magic lies.
Yeah.
I love it. Now let's talk a little bit about marketing and branding.
Okay.
What are the key elements of building a personal brand for artists in the digital space?
The golden thread is the key. The
Mm,
golden thread, finding that thing that's uniquely yours.
yeah.
Artists love to experiment. Artists love to play. Artists love to explore and create. And
Mm,
it doesn't make any sense online. We can't tell who they are. We can't tell if this is theirs or that's theirs. Do you know what I mean?
yes.
There's just too much. And it's asking a lot of an audience to follow someone inside of our heads. So the more we can narrow it down, choosing one thing and making that our golden thread, it doesn't mean that you can't play in other spaces. But when it comes to your marketing, it's so important to find what is that golden thread. And it
Mm,
doesn't mean you can't change your golden thread either. You can pull all
right.
the old threads out and sew a new one,
Mm,
but to have one message about your work, whether it's your subject matter, whether it's your craft, whether it's you and your story. There's just so many things it could be. It's really up to you what that golden thread is, but it's really important to find it. And that's a huge part of an artist's journey too.
So, how can artists balance showcasing their creativity with the commercial aspects of selling their art online?
That's the $1,000,000 question. Like, how do we,
Mhm.
it's a dance. We have to make the space for the sucky stuff we hate.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. And we have to find a way to make it fun. So we
Yes.
don't hate it as much. I think it's really important to put your creativity practice first. But if you've got a garage full of paintings,
Mm,
already, then
yeah.
maybe it's time to put your creativity practice second and put your marketing practice first. But even if you need to be in the studio creating, that's great. Put
Yes.
that in place, but also put a marketing practice in place around it. And I like to do the things that I hate first thing in the morning. And then I don't have to beat myself up or drag myself or bribe myself or anything like that. It's like I wake up, I have my coffee, I do the hardest work I have to do. Usually it's an hour, hour and a half of just tackling the big sucky projects. And then it's
Yes.
done. And then it's done. And then you're free
Yeah.
and you feel good.
Now, I'd love you to tell us the story of your crowdfunding campaign,
Mm.
how you created it, who you attracted to participate in it. Give us what made this crowdfunding campaign such a success.
Oh, it was such a magical time. I had been teaching the working artist in person, all over the world, actually. And I was working with a university in England who had 5 different campuses. It was a university of creative arts. And they invited me to come in and do workshops, any kind of workshops, creative workshops I wanted with their students. And their students were, anything from architects to fashion designers to fine artists to commercial photographers. And so I knew I wanted to do a crowdfunding campaign and I had a bunch of ideas. So I created some workshops with these, as I was teaching these artists these workshops, I was kind of workshopping my ideas with them and showing them how to do their own crowdfunding and how to fund their own projects in different ways and how to build an audience. And so it was really collaborative. I really love working collaboratively with other creative people. So I did that for a few months and really fleshed out the idea for my campaign. And in the meantime, because I knew that I was going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign, I really doubled down on my social media so that I could build my audience. And I was collecting as many followers and as many email addresses as I possibly could. And when I created the campaign, I learned everything I could, because learning is a huge part of this, about what kind of rewards would appeal to an artist. I knew that I wanted, of course, to give my backers the working artist course, but I created a lot of other really fun incentives for artists that just helped me along the way so that everything leveraged each other. To me, the best projects are where you can leverage what you already have with what you want, with what you already know, with what you're going to learn for the next thing. So as much as you can leverage is great. That crowdfunding campaign, oh gosh, it was so much work. I can't tell you. I worked from morning to night for a month, and asking people for money has got to be the hardest thing that that anyone has to do. It's not fun, but that night that I won, that I knew I surpassed my goal, I saw the biggest shooting star go across the sky, and it felt like it was just for me and for all of the artists who supported me. It was really well worth it.
So how much did you raise in this crowdfunding campaign, and what did you use the resources for?
I raised, I'm trying to remember, I think I ended up raising $25,000. It was 10 years ago. I used the money to do everything, really, to do everything else I needed to do.
Yes.
To build the platform, to engage a company who I had an idea in my head, but I didn't really know if anyone did this, where my videos, I would talk and then the video would stop and there could be a notebook underneath where people could write their answers and they could collect the answers and the video would start again. And I found someone who had just started a company doing that. And I was their first client, and we're still working together today. So that was pretty magical. So I used the money for that. I used the money to buy the platform, the URL, the legal stuff that I needed, the accounting stuff that I needed, to bring in some guest consultants. There were some bad investments. I hired some people to do things that I thought I couldn't do, which probably I should have done myself. I eventually had to. There's a big learning curve in all of this.
But you kind of evolve, you make those mistakes, and you keep going.
Absolutely. The equipment, the filming, all of that, it all costs money.
Oh, this is exciting.
But what I loved about it is that a creative creates, right? So I thought I couldn't do the working artist at first because I didn't have enough money. And I don't think anyone should ever be stopped. I think the obstacle, the Stoics say that the obstacle is the way. So if something is stopping us, we should look at that obstacle and say, okay, this is pointing me towards something. It's pointing me around it. What's the way around? And I think what I learned is community, because I'm a collaborative artist. I always have been. Community and collaboration is always the best way around, working with other people.
Now, I love what you've just said. The obstacle is the way. It's interesting because I kind of live with that belief. When I started having some really serious challenges in my business and my life, I had a friend who said to me, with every bump in the road, don't try and jump over it. Turn the rock over, see what's underneath it, because there's something there that you should be paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how when we are hit with obstacles in life, we don't want to observe them. It feels like a setback. It feels like you're going the wrong way. Yet it's actually a clue that you should be paying attention to something.
Mm-hmm.
And those little prompts, as you called them, I call them my signposts now. When they show up, you really have to tune into, what is this? Why is it here? What am I supposed to get out of it? And yeah, it is a magical way of looking at barriers, obstacles in a completely different way.
I couldn't agree more, Gertrude. Where we find the resistance in ourselves often points to something, and we try to like, oh, I feel resistance, I'm going to tamp it down. No, let's listen to that. And I think 90% of the time, the word money is attached to that.
Yeah.
That's often the obstacle or the issue or the problem is money. And
Yeah.
money's all around us. Money's an energy that exists in the universe. And I know that sounds kind of airy fairy, but I'm learning it's really true. And where the issues are is our stories about money and the energy we hold around money. And when we keep facing financial obstacles, it's a sign that we need to look at our relationship with money. I'm actually creating a new program called the Artist Prosperity Lab. And in it, I'm sharing an exercise that I learned from Ken Honda. And I have people go into a meditation. So you go into a meditative space and you picture yourself in a light-filled room, a beautiful, safe, wonderful light-filled room. And you're sitting in your chair, you're totally relaxed, and the door opens. And in walks money. And money takes a seat across from you. And money speaks to you. And in your meditative state, listen to what money says. And it's amazing what you learn about your relationship with money. I've had people tell me, oh, but money smells bad. It's shit. I don't want it. I don't want it. It's shit. Why can't I make any money? Well, do you see? Do you see where the disconnect is there? So that's why I think we really have to start with ourselves and look at ourselves and not the world when we're having financial problems, because money doesn't go anywhere. Sure, the oligarchs have most of it, but there's still plenty out there. We just need to tune into it and to heal those broken parts in ourselves that block it. And I say just like that's so easy, because it's not easy. It's part of our lessons as human beings, because money is everywhere. It's something that everyone in the world has to deal with. It's the work we all have to do. And artists, because of the stories that are attached to us about starving and struggling, we inherit a lot of this baggage, and we swallow a lot of it. I know in my own family, there's a lot of stories about me as the starving artist and the one who's had to struggle. And I bought into that. But I'm learning how to heal that, and I'm learning how to claim my power, and I'm teaching others now.
That is just absolutely beautiful. It is all about you and
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with money that makes it flow.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an energy. It is an
It
energy
is.
that flows through us so we can make some magical difference in the world. So when are you launching this new program? I am really intrigued with that.
Thank you. I'm hopeful this summer. I've got to get my book out first, and then it's next on my list, the Artist Prosperity Lab, the Working Artist Prosperity Lab.
Crista,
I'm
thank you so
excited.
much. I have your website scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
Thank
What can people get from you? Tell us what resources they can find on your website. Give us a bit of a breakdown of what's available on your website.
Thanks. There's a lot on my website. Artists can go there and they can learn different ways to work with me. I work with artists who are more established, who might have reached a point in their career where things have kind of started to stall or they're confused about what to do next. So I love to work with established artists. I love to work with emerging and mid-career artists as well, who really want to get their work out there in a bigger way. I do coaching where I work with artists long-term. That's usually for more established artists. And I do retreats as well. And so there's something for everyone on my website. There's a place to join my email list, and I give a lot of free resources to artists. And I've been doing this for a long time now. And so I have a lot to share. And I tell people, take what works for you, leave the rest, because there's more coming. People who join my email list will also be the first to know when my book is out and when the Artist Prosperity Lab is ready.
Fantastic. Crista, thanks so much for coming back and sharing your nuggets with wisdom for us today. I am so inspired that I found you, that you reached out to be on the podcast. And thank you for being an example of the possibility of what an artist's life can actually look like if you have faith, if you have conviction in what you're doing, and you just follow your instincts and you follow your gut. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I'm really grateful to you for this conversation.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in again. Like I always say, the Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you want to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again, Crista.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.